Okay. I'm a anti-disciplinary artist. So I like to do whatever I want, however I want to do it. And I'm working at intersections and questions around care, reimagining what just daily lives can look like through, interrogating frameworks of division.
Okay. Where were you born and where did you grow up?
So Tazewell, Virginia, about 3 hours from Knoxville, where we're at now, is probably home base. That's where my family's from.
Okay.
And I moved a little bit, or I moved a lot, but mostly in Virginia as a kid. And so Virginia Beach also feels like home to me. But I've been in Knoxville now for 20-ish years, not continuously. But so this feels like home too.
Okay. So what was it like growing up in Tazewell, Virginia?
Well, it's very rural. It's southern Appalachia, way off any interstate. So I got a lot of free roaming. It was a good way to grow up in terms of I could go outside and play and not see another adult all day long. So I built a lot of forts, played in a lot of creeks, had a big family, so played with a lot of cousins. And my parents were divorced. So when I lived in Virginia Beach, it was something similar in terms of just a lot of free roaming, except it was at the ocean front and playing in the beach and the sand and the dunes.
Oh, yeah. What would you say was some of the positive and negatives about growing up there?
I think lack of exposure would be a negative. I had no idea of like being an artist and what that could look like. It wasn't within the realm of possibility for me. So, I went to college kind of by accident because I ran cross country and track, and that the getting a scholarship kind of drew me into going to college.
Okay.
I don't think I would have otherwise even gone because again, sort of lack of exposure. I'm the first one in my family to do that. And then when I went to college, I only knew sort of like teaching and nursing as jobs that frankly like women in my experience ever did. So I went first for social work and then teaching. And I just always thought, well, I'll just teach I'll teach. And then in the summers is when I'll like get to make my art.
Oh, yeah.
So it took me a while. It took me a lot of sort of like circular living to get to like know that I could just be an artist and that could be the job. So that's a long answer to that's the negative. And the positive, I think it really is just being just free ranging. Like I loved that I got to just spend a lot of time outside, either by myself or with like a cohort of cousins and just playing, like really like unstructured play and sort of problem solving and a lot of mischievousness, get into like the good kind of trouble, you know? It was good.
When did you move to Knoxville and what brought you to Knoxville?
So I moved from Nashville to Knoxville to finish school. It took me, again, because I'm like first generation college student, I didn't know what I was doing. So it took me a long time to get a degree. So I had dropped out of school already, a couple schools, and moved to Nashville. And then I kind of felt I was ready to start back and try to finish that. And at that point I was a Tennessee resident, and so UT made the most sense to me. So sight unseen, I applied to University of Tennessee, got in, and then just moved to Knoxville. So I had never really seen it. Really? So that was kind of a risk.
So was UT like the only place that you applied to?
Yeah. Mostly just because, like I think I was clueless. I don't even know why. It was like I didn't want to live in like Murfreesboro where MTSU is, and I was ready to switch up from Nashville.
Okay.
So that was like the other state school that I should like, oh well, I'll try it. So I moved here. Like I got here one night and landed in like West Knoxville, somewhere off Kingston Pike at like a Red Roof Inn or something. And my stomach just like dropped because I was like, I just signed up to do this I thought that was like only like that's what Knoxville was. But then the next day I woke up and got downtown and I loved it. It was just like it was like the scruffy version of Knoxville that was kind of like downtown was just beginning to sort of like revitalize. And so landed in Sturkey Lofts. I don't know what they're like now, but back then they were just kind of like, college kids. And then so I really thought that I would just finish school and then go back to Nashville because I really did like Nashville. But, I fell in love with Knoxville. I feel like that's the story that you hear so often. But
Indeed.
I'm still here.
I feel like a lot of people get stuck here, so to speak.
Yeah, I got stuck, and sometimes it felt like stuck, and I have left Knoxville for, good spans of time. Yeah. But I just keep coming back because I really do love it here.
Yeah, I think Knoxville kind of has a good balance of everything. Yeah. It's like it's enough of a nightlife that you don't have to get bored. Yeah. But it's not as much chaos as bigger cities.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm like proud of our creative scene here. Like it's a small creative scene, but it's like a good vibe. And then the greenery, like the trees, and you can go barefoot. And cost of living used to be a nice thing, but that's different now.
How early did you know you were going to be involved in art?
Yeah, so this is actually really connected to living in Knoxville. So like I said, I've always made art. That's been like just a primal mode of expression that I don't even know what it means to not be an artist. Just always making things. But I thought that I had to have like a normal job, like a track job. And so I was going to school for education at UT and then just painting on the side. So I was actually in this house when I was in school. I think this is like 2006, I'm guessing. I'm bad with timeline, so I have no idea. But I got on one of those like HGTV shows. It was Renovation Realities. And Matt Sprouse, who was a friend, was the producer of that show. So we were in the house like doing one of those shows and my paintings were just all around. And at that time, he and Allison, his wife, owned Abode down on Market Square, which was like a little like boutique, like had furniture and housing kind of stuff, and they sold art. And so he's like, why don't you have a First Friday here and see what happens? And so I did, and if I'm not mistaken, it sold out. If it didn't sell out, I was like really close, which is actually never happened before. So I think it was like the universe the universe just sort of like it opened my eyes, because I was like going to school again to like make a life that would fit art into it. And then I just saw very clearly that, I could just make a living making art. I don't need to do this. So I dropped out of school, and I've been an artist ever since. Okay. Yeah.
So like, but before this, like what kinds of art were you doing in your younger years?
Yeah, I didn't call it art really, because I didn't know. Again, like I didn't have a lot of exposure. I don't think I went to a museum until I was in my mid-20s. Okay. So like calendar art was like what I like Matisse and Picasso and George O'Keeffe were like, those were people on my radar. So I would paint. My mom did a good job of like, I had materials accessible to me, but I would say what I was really doing a lot was building forts. I really loved just building things outside with things that I could find. And now my practice has sort of evolved in that direction. And now I can see that that was a framework of art making, but that's not how I would have ever sort of thought about it. And clothes too. I always sort of like altered and was interested in making my own clothes. So yeah.
Okay, so at the point where you decided like this is gonna be a thing now, who were your influences at that point?
Yeah, so at that point I was making art, or sorry, painting was like the art form that I was attached to. And I really was like sort of ignorant of the broader art scene. So I would say Frida Kahlo, Matisse. I would say Frida Kahlo and Matisse were the people that were on my radar. I kind of knew about their lives a little bit, and I had seen their work Mostly because they're sort of popular, you know, they're around, they're sort of commercial. They've become interesting in little boutique shops. So that was my exposure to art at that point. So not a lot. I was just sort of making things up very much in the dark, sort of.
Okay.